Welcome to my channel, Solution Providers, sponsored by TWL ICT Solutions. I'm your host, Todd Levenenko. In today's episode, I thought it would be important to talk about something that I get a lot of questions about. When I go to different colleges throughout the city and ask to speak to students that are interested in the information technology field, I'm asked typically 5 basic questions. So I'd like to go through these top 5 questions with you and give you an idea of what they're about. The first question I would often get asked is, when did I get interested in computers? Well, that's a long story, but the short story of it is this. When I was in my teens in the 1980s, going to high school, I fell in love with the field of astronomy. And I was always interested from a little kid actually in astronomy. Didn't know what it was called back then, but then when I was 12 years old, I recognized that astronomy was the study of stars and planets, and I really enjoyed that. One of the challenges back then was there was no internet, and as a result of that, you ended up having to read books on different locations of planets, and sometimes they weren't accurate, and therefore you had to understand the mathematics behind it. So I tried to do that. I tried to calculate positions of planets, and I really found it fascinating. The challenge, of course, was that the computations were difficult, and a calculator and pen and paper just doesn't cut it. So when computers started coming into play, personal computers, I wanted to get one. And I eventually did get one. It's called an HR. Yeah, that's Heward Rand, not Hewlett Packard, Heward Rand. Now, that computer had some basic programming capabilities, and I was able to write programs using some books that I found in a library on how to calculate positions of planets, the sun, the moon, and the stars. And from there, I was able to figure out what time of day it would be or what type of evening it would be to see Venus, for example, or Jupiter or Mars. As I got into high school, I discovered that there was a program on just starting up called computer science. It was offered, and I took a look into it. As a result of that, I was able to, using punch cards back then, cards like this, there's numbers on it, punched it in with a punch card writer. So you'd write it, you'd verify it, and then you'd put it into a reader, and then next day your answer came up. And so that's how I got interested in computers. It wasn't because I was interested in computers, I was interested in the results computers can do and how it can make my life much easier. Another question I often get is, what was my first steps in becoming a computer programmer? Well, I kind of gave you a hint earlier back, but as I learned more and more about different types of programming languages and algorithms, I really found it interesting. Now, the challenge, of course, is it's analytical to the most part. So, not being that great in mathematics, I had to really focus on the mathematics. So, over time, I studied more and more mathematics and sciences, and eventually got into university, still focused on astronomy, mathematics, and physics. Those my fields of passion, but I always understood the role of the computer, and as a result, I really needed to do some programming. So I took a couple of programming computer courses in the university, as well as my focus on mathematics and astronomy. One of the other questions I often get asked and I understand it because you really need to know. Did I get a job immediately after graduating? Well, the answer to that is I did get a job, but not necessarily the one I wanted. You see, the field of IT, although you see a ton of job postings through nowadays Indeed and Glassdoor and a variety of others. The challenge, of course, is there's a lot of competition in these fields. Now, let me be honest, it's not easy getting a job in IT. It never has been, and I don't think it ever will be. See, it's a big field now through machine learning, data science, artificial intelligence. You might be hearing those buzzwords, but everybody's trying to get into those fields. And as a result of that, they get saturated. So, did I get my first job immediately in computers? Well, I did get a job in computers, but it wasn't the job I was aiming for. You see, I was working for a small accounting firm with a blue box that was about 4 feet long, 3 feet wide, 4 feet high, called Basic 4. And it was an accounting computer, ACPAC. Some of you may have heard the term. It was an accounting package type solution. So I did get my fingers wet, if you will, typing away on keyboards and looking at a green screen and trying to make things work. And I did, of course. But again, wasn't my first job that I wanted. And as a result of that, over time, I continued searching, looking for newer and better opportunities. But hey, I'm glad I started because one of the things I got to tell you in the field of IT, when you graduate, get an IT job, get anything IT. Don't sell yourself short, but don't sit on the couch waiting because it's not going to happen. The other question I often get is what advice do I have for going into the field of information technology? Well, I think I said it, and I'll say it again. The advice I have is you're constantly learning. A good computer programmer, a good system analyst, a good system administrator, anything in the field of IT, and I would say anything in the field of anything. If you are passionate about that field, know everything about it. For example, I'm now into the hardware aspect of IT. I love putting hardware together and making it work. But as you well know, with cloud services being more and more available, software as a service, infrastructure as a service, anything as a service, one of the things that you have to recognize is there will always be some programming requirements. So if you are, for example, an expert in Cisco network switching or any other type of switching like HP or Juniper or firewalls or FortiGate, remember this, there is programming involved. So be familiar with some programming techniques. Python, for example, is a valuable tool right now. And some may think that C and C++ are dead to the world. Got news for you. It's not. Always be familiar with what's out there. What's out there will help you. So if you are a network administrator, get familiar with some programming. If you're a programmer, get familiar with the hardware architecture that you're working with. Understand networking, understand the concept of data packet travel, and latencies, and response time. You don't have to be a master of everything, but know your field that you want to get into and understand it and understand the complexity that's around it. Whatever field you're interested in, It's the business aspect that you need to consider as well. Understand the business that you're working in. Take some management or administrative courses. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this conversation, and I trust that in your line of work, whatever it is and wherever it'll take you, remember this: if you want to be good in information technology, and in fact, in any aspect of the world of business and technology, a good person in their field is always learning. So continue to learn through YouTube videos or what have you. Well, I hope you enjoyed my little conversation with you. Good luck and see you next time. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.